Welcome to the Avalanche podcast. Today we're talking about the Bournemouth game that happened on Sunday, the last game of the season, and it was at home. Andrew, a 2-1 win. It secured fifth place for us. Sixth place for us. Unfortunately, we didn't get fifth due to Spurs beating Sheffield United, which, let's face it, was to be expected. What were your thoughts on the game and the performance?
I didn't think the performance was that great. I think Bournemouth, for large swathes of the game, were the better side. Caicedo scored an excellent goal. Might be a bit of luck there that the goalkeeper's done what he's done and been that far out of goal, but it's not an easy chance, and someone is coming across to block him. So he's done very well to put that in the back of the net.
Goal of the season? I mean, to be fair, Garnacho's actually won goal of the season against his bicycle kick against Everton, but I think that might have been decided before that goal went in. I mean, for me, it's definitely the Chelsea goal of the season.
Definitely Chelsea. Well, it's up there. The only contender that I've got that immediately comes to mind is Enzo's free kick against Villa, I want to say.
Was that not in the League Cup, though?
Dead postage stamp. Yeah, it was goal of the season, though. It's not.
Yeah, fair.
Premier League.
Fair. Yeah, I'll give you that.
But yeah, it's definitely high on that list of goal of the season. But again, we sort of scraped a win under sort of difficult circumstances. Team hasn't fought.
How do you think they were difficult circumstances?
Difficult circumstances in that Bournemouth, for large ways of the game, were on top, and we've sort of dug in and we've done some last-ditch challenges, and people were really trying to make that win happen rather than just ambling around the pitch like we have seen at times this season. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I mean, Bournemouth definitely had a couple of chances. Unfortunately, their goal was actually a deflected goal. I think that goal, I haven't actually checked if it's gone down as an own goal, to be fair. But when you look at a certain angle from just behind the goal, it does look like the behind the shot, I should say. It does actually look like the ball is going wide until Badiashille sticks out a lazy foot, which is quite infuriating actually, because it is a lazy foot. I don't really feel like he's actually going for it with a lot of commitment and stuff. And it's obviously completely taken it away from the right-hand side of the keeper and gone in on his left. So the keeper can't do anything about it. I didn't think Badiashile actually had a good game. There was one ball he did over the top to Jackson where he controlled it, kept the ball in, took it past the defender and took a shot at a really weird angle. Well, it's just a difficult angle. But yeah, there were a couple of squeaky bum time moments. And there were definitely some players that were absolutely playing out their socks and tracking back to stop them attacking, to be fair. I thought Cucurella again he's been brilliant since they've changed his position. It's weird because I think like, all right, although he goes in the middle, what he's now doing, even just up the wing, I feel like it's massive improvement. And I think he's got more options with a pass and move type thing, if that makes sense. I think fewer hospital passes are now happening towards him as well, which helps when he is higher up the pitch. Badiashile did do one though, which I actually think led to the goal.
Do you mean Caicedo when you said that?
Huh?
Do you mean Caicedo when you?
No, I mean Cucurella. I feel like because of the positioning where he has to go up higher up the pitch, and I feel
like more a hospital pass thing that I didn't quite understand. But
well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like in terms of sometimes where he receives the ball, he's got a player on him. And it's not to call him out again, but there was a lazy pass from Badiashile. I mean, granted, he's got a player on him, but he's not under a lot of pressure. But he's then passing quite a slow ball to Cucurella, who's slightly up above him. And I feel like it's happened a fair amount of times. Probably not just Badiashile, and it's happened to other players. As you said, Caicedo, it's happened a lot to him. Where he's then put under pressure, where he doesn't have enough time to control the ball, and actually it creates a counter-attack moment quite high up the pitch for the opposition team. So yeah, I mean,
just to butt in, one thing I think Cucurella is quite good at is when he gets those situations, he's quite good at winning a foul.
He is. He gets his body in the way. I was just about to say, like, the one thing I think he's he's started to do more throughout the season, especially since we've changed his position. He's now in midfield a lot more. He because it happened the other day actually. I can't was it Brighton or the game before? He was in midfield and he had to get through two defenders and actually from a hospital pass. And he actually then did a really nice ball up the top of the pitch. Um, but he is starting to get his body in the way, which I think is definitely helping the situation. Whereas before he was a lot more open and therefore more susceptible to have the ball taken off of him, and they got the counter attack. I mean, I thought Gallagher had a good game. Palmer, unfortunately, didn't get a goal, but he still had a good game. Some lovely deliveries. Jackson, apart from in the final third, I'm going to say he just kept just losing his footing in the final third. I felt a fair amount of times, but other than that, I thought it was good. It was nice to see him link up with Nkuku again. That link up was coming back that we saw in the preseason. He could have got a goal, which unfortunately the strike was just too close to the goalkeeper. But I think all importantly, it was just the win. You know, it wasn't the big performance I think we had hoped, but I think it was a performance that kind of summed up our season quite well at the end of in the final game.
I think one thing that impressed me was Nkunku's passing.
But yeah,
His balls over the top. I didn't think that that was part of his game or something that he was supposed to be exceptional at. But he played some unbelievable balls over the top during that game.
really well. No, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. The one that he nearly scored because there's a lovely ball over the top of the defense into the space. Jackson runs onto it, and then he actually gives the ball back to Nkuku as he's running into the box. And that's the thing. His awareness of where he needs to be. Though you know, we've always known his running was good and his positional play was good, but the fact that, like you just said, his delivery as well to create space and perfectly weighted as well, where it's actually bang on where that attacker needs it. You know, again, it's one of those things we said it before. If he stays fit next season, I think it's a completely different attack for Chelsea. So yeah, so I mean, there were positives. Thought Sterling was quite lucky with his goal. Not to take anything away from him, to be fair, but you know, the commentators actually said in the highlights that they thought he'd actually had quite a good game. I was a bit 50-50. And I thought, to correct me if I'm wrong, or you may have a different opinion. Not even correct me, but you might have a different opinion. I thought as the game went on, we started to lose a little bit of that kind of trying to set people up as much. And I felt like players were trying to take on shots that weren't really on for them because they wanted that goal the last day of the season. Do you agree with me, or do you think that's like way off base?
I don't really have a strong opinion on it. For how it's been at certain times this season, I don't think it was that bad. Purely because I've just watched so many one-on-ones. We've got two or three players queuing up on the other side of it, one-on-one with the goalkeeper. The players have the shot, and you're just like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I didn't see a lot of that. I think I did see a lot of squaring it, and we just didn't get the ball right.
Yeah.
Defenders cut it out. So I think I do disagree with you, but I can't like maybe if you come up with some instances where that happened. But I just think it was that final ball was just poor more often than not.
Yeah, fair. I'll give you that one as well. That's not a bad shout. Do you know what? I don't actually know who got voted man of the match. I have a gut feeling it was Cole Palmer, but I could be wrong.
I don't know either. It's difficult when you're at the stadium.
It is, yeah. Who would you say was your man of the match? It might have been Caicedo actually.
I'd
I
give it
don't
to
know.
that.
That's who I was thinking about actually. That's exactly who I was thinking about. I was like, even if you take away the goal, I thought for me it's between him and Cucurella. If I'm being brutally honest, I think it's between him and Cucurella. I thought the first half, Caicedo was everywhere. He was fantastic, and then he got that goal as well. So for me, it was Caicedo, followed closely by Cucurella.
I thought you just said Cole Palmer.
No, I thought Cole Palmer had got it,
Right.
and
Yeah, I think Caicedo is the right choice. I think he probably hasn't got the credit that he has deserved a lot of the time this season.
first half of the season he wasn't. I stand by that. That in the first half of the season, he was not the player that we thought we were buying. I think he's developed, and a lot of people are now saying that that's the Caicedo that we've expected to see in the team. It's taken him a
No,
while, but
I
he's
still
literally
think he was
long.
actually putting in decent performances in the first half of the season. He was just constantly the one that looked shit because he was the one that was getting hospital passed, and then they're running in and scoring. I think in that
Plus he was
position,
outnumbered a lot of the time.
and in that position, it's very difficult to adapt to a team that quickly. Like Rodri had a shit first season at Man
He did.
City.
He did.
Like it's very difficult to adapt to a new team if you don't know where people are going to be, especially when you haven't had a full preseason. Because he effectively came back. He came for our first game, so we didn't have a full preseason
Yeah.
of training or whatever, and he had to learn sort of as the season went on while playing, and then sort of training a few times a week. So I think that was a large part of what the problem was. I think having a player next to him has also helped him take the burden off him a little bit. Where Enzo's obviously had this hernia problem, and from my opinion, was very easy to get past a lot of the time this season, which makes sense. Hernia is painful. He's taking pain injections, and it's not easy. But I do think that hurt Caicedo's performances.
No, I completely agree with that. There was a lot of times early on in the season where he was alone and he was being outnumbered. I think where the defense had been a bit suspect at times as well. It The problem you've got is it's such a vulnerable position, the position he plays. If you're it's easy to see if you're not having a good game in that position. And like we said, not only is it easy to see, but it's also quite if you're letting in goals and you're being passed through quite quickly and quite easy, you look like the biggest problem. I think I've said that very well. I don't think I have, but that's
Look,
that's the thing. It's
if you're the one that's supposed to be doing that role
yeah,
that stops the back four getting run at, and you're the one that seems to be causing the problem because you're giving the ball away, because you're getting hospital passed, it is very difficult unless you're watching the games to go. If you're just watching the highlights, you're just looking at those individual instances and going, well, he's fucking shit.
yeah,
It's like for years, if you watch the highlights, you'd look at all the games and go, William's amazing. Because either he stuttered around for 5 minutes, slowed the game down, and then that's not a highlight. And you're just like, this guy's fucking dreadful. And then all of a sudden he'll just bend one in 3 games later, and that's on the highlight. And you go, Williams, and all you hear is Williams such a great player, and you're like, fuck me, you obviously don't watch the game, do you?
yeah. If you solely watch match of the day, basically,
Yeah. You
you're
think
either going to
he's
see a
one of the best
player
players in
that
the
goes
world.
that looks fantastic or could be absolutely awful. So yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I think you are a little bit harsh on Willian at times, to be fair. But
I think look, he had some good seasons, but like his good seasons were because everyone else was so unbelievably poor that it looked good for him.
well, the season that we finished 10th and had the Battle of the Bridge season, Hazard, because Hazard was injured quite a bit that season. That's probably his best season in my opinion. He did shine. But
We
again,
finished.
everyone else was fucking shocking.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the game, we actually went quite defensive in the fact that we brought on both Ugachukwu, who's now back from an injury, and Caicedo.
And
What you're
Malagusto for a winger.
say again?
And Malagusto for a winger.
Yes, I knew we brought on another defender, but I couldn't remember who he came on for. Was that the right decision? Do you think? Was it too defensive? Did it leave us vulnerable for Bournemouth to sort of to carry on pressing us, or what do you think about that?
I think there wasn't a lot of other options really. If players are struggling, and a lot of these players have just come back from injuries, so like Sterling probably couldn't have played 90 minutes. In the best will of the world, he probably couldn't have played 90 minutes. And there's Caicedo got an injury, so he had to come off. Yeah, I think a lot of it is what options did we have on the bench to bring more attacking players on?
Yeah, fair. I mean, we brought on Nkunku.
We had
Um,
Carney on the bench, but he's literally just back.
yeah, I think you're
Yeah,
right.
so
I think you're right in
was
terms of
Noni around on the bench?
who
Noni started. Noni started, didn't he?
Noni started. Yeah,
Yeah. So I can't like I
Mudryk was out the game for
Bridget was
concussion.
out. Washington, for some reason, for whatever reason, wasn't in the squads, which
I
is
think he's only
fine.
made one appearance this whole season, which was in the League Cup, maybe two, and they both came in cup games. No, I
Just
think you're right. I think it comes
think
down to game management with regards to, well, not even game management. I think it just comes down to squad management with injuries more than anything
so
else.
our bench was Bettinelli, Caicedo, Chukwuemeka, Colwill, Dizazi, Gilchrist, Gusto, Nkunku, Ugo Chukwu.
Yeah,
We've
fair.
got two
Yeah,
offensive
yeah, yeah.
players on, and fine, we didn't bring one of them on, but he's literally just back, so I can understand not risking him.
No, that makes sense. Just quickly, uh, sorry, did you agree with Caicedo as your man of the match?
Yeah,
Yeah, you did. All right, cool.
yeah.
Just quickly, because we're going to do obviously a season review in a few weeks' time, um, or maybe sooner. Uh, just a quick brief sum up of where we finished and how you think the season's gone. Just very very quick. Happy with where we finished?
I think with how the season's gone with injuries and other
Factors.
factors, yeah, and just the fact there was a new manager, a lot of new players, the limited size of players that we had, and limited ability to rotate, and almost being forced to play players that were out of form that could have done with a bit of time out of the team and to refocus and a bit of mental rest, I think, and not having the opportunity to do that to get where we finished, I think is a pretty good achievement. There'll always be questions over why couldn't we put this run together that we've had sort of towards the end of the season, the Arsenal game ignored, obviously. Why we couldn't do more of that this season in general. And I think a large part of that is just the new manager. Like new manager, new tactics, new players, and everyone needs to get used to each other. We did miss a fair few chances throughout, especially the early part of the season.
Yeah.
And we did give away a lot of silly goals, but that part of it is definitely new team, and we were losing the ball in stupid areas because people didn't know where people were going to be. People didn't know where people actually wanted to receive the ball, whether it was on their right foot, whether it was in front of them, whether it was on the left foot. So I think it just took some time, and there was a long period of sort of getting it right, and we really struggled to breaking a
The
deep
blocks, deep
line.
blocks, yeah.
And I think a lot of that is if you're not 100%, everyone knows where everyone's going to be. You do misplace passes, and you do cock up, and it's very difficult to be on song enough to play the two or three tight passes that you need to break that down and get a decent shot off. Um, so I think I'm really happy to see the improvement by the end of the season, and how well not just individuals were playing, but as a team they're playing, and the systems and the shapes and the triangles that they're making, and being able to play out of defence. And I definitely felt a lot less worried when the ball was in our half at the end of the season compared to the start, where it just looked like we were going to lose it every bloody time.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it was good progress, and I'm just sort of disappointed that we had so many injuries and so many problems. And it would be nice to see where this group of players could have, how they could have done if we had sort of 3 or 4 injuries every week rather than 8 or 9 injuries every week.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're finishing the season on an average of 9 injuries a game, which is just fucking insane. I've seen a lot of people say that actually, if we hadn't dropped points against Burnley, Sheffield United, and I think they said Wolves, we would have finished fourth.
You can say that about every team.
No,
Every
can't you?
team
No,
has
no,
lost
absolutely.
some stupid
I'm just
games.
saying
So
they were games regardless of where we were in the league at that point. They would be games that you would normally be going, yeah, we should be getting wins. Just on your point about us looking vulnerable at the back and always looking like conceding, I don't actually know the official stat. But I believe that, well, I know that this is the season in the Premier League where we have conceded the most goals ever. And I believe it's now up to around, I think it's about 61, 62 goals last time I heard. Which is worrying, to be fair. I think it's worrying.
Well, I think it is. I think we conceded far too many goals from set pieces. And I'd like to see the stat on individual errors leading to a goal, because I think we must be up there with the relegation teams in terms of number of individual errors that led to a goal. And part of that is silly errors in silly areas of the pitch. And part of it is just a bit of bad luck, because players miss chances all the time. And I feel like we went through a period where teams just did not miss chances if we gave them one.
Well, that West Ham away game at the beginning of the season, it always stands out for me, where they literally had three shots on target and 3 goals.
Yeah,
it was I mean, you what can you do with that? And also I think the fact that the defensive line was new. You think about it, we had Chilwell and Reece James out at the beginning of the season, and then God knows how many times that defensive line has changed. I mean, the amount of different combinations we've had this season, I just think is going to be insane when you look at the statistics for that. Also, what do you think our chances are of getting into Europa League if City beat Man United? Well, that's what needs to happen. So, you think it's likely? Do you think United could do something?
I mean, there's no guarantees in football. I didn't think that United were going to beat Liverpool in the last round.
Yeah, lucky.
And they came back and they seemed to push over the line. So anything can happen. It's not a guarantee. I think obviously Man City can be the bookies' favourites. So you'd put your money on City winning because of how poor United have been, and even towards the end of the season they've been a bit off. They haven't had the form that we've had, for example. So yeah, fingers crossed we make Europa League. Because at least that's a decent level of football. I think.
I was going to say,
I mean, it massively depends. Like, if we got Europa Conference League, depending on who we keep around and who we loan out, it could be a really good competition to play, to sort of guarantee minutes for Carney Chukwuemeka, for David Washington, for Ugo Chukwu, like the youngsters that we're going to have to keep around for squad depth, but generally probably won't play week in, week out unless certain players get injured. I think it's a better rotation cup than Europa League, obviously, because the teams are of a higher quality and higher caliber. So there is an argument to say we're better off in the Europa Conference League, but it's just better to play better teams, isn't it, really?
No, I agree. I think it is better to be in the Europa League from a lot of reasons. Better quality of opposition. Because if you think about it, even the teams that you start off with in the Europa League, they're going to be better off in those group stages, better than the Europa Conference League ones. And then obviously the Champions League teams that don't quite make it into knockout rounds, because obviously there's a new structure next season, they'll be dropping down into Europa League. So I still think from every possible angle, bar obviously the fact that Thursday Sunday situation, which isn't ideal, and maybe the fact that we still obviously need to make sure our injuries are under control, because I think we will struggle if we don't get our injuries under control next season. But I still think it's positive. Being in the Europa League, I think, is actually very positive and a great way to finish the season. Granted, we couldn't do it on our own, and we are relying on City getting us a result, but I still think it's the best place to be at this point.
I think being a City fan 2 weeks in a row is a new personal record for me.
Well, also, I mean, they won the treble last year, and then they could still do the domestic double in Premier League and FA Cup. So it's quite big. And apparently, no one has ever done the double before, back to back. Which technically, no, exactly. And Pep didn't know it either. Apparently, they said, "Oh, potential double. No one's ever done that before," and he apparently lit up. So although they won the treble, it's still the domestic double.
Yeah, well,
and so it's another record for them, and it'd be something for him to go, yeah, wicked guys, no one's done this before. This
Yeah.
is another thing that we can fucking do. Let's go. But obviously with a more charismatic Spanish accent. So yeah, anything
It's
else that
not.
you
It's not the Mourinho treble though, is it?
what's
Charity Shield, Carabao Cup, and Europa League, was it?
what
For
for
United.
United? Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah. I
not
think
sure they won
for
that
United
Europa
did it. Yeah.
League.
Like, I mean, to be fair, if there's any treble that you actually want to go for at this point in time, or any season that I think deserves credit, it's Leverkusen. They've got one more game to win, and they will win the well, the Europa League, the Bundesliga, the German Cup. Not it's called the German Cup; it's called something else. And they will be undefeated for an entire season across
I believe
every
it's
competition.
the,
That's just
the
insane.
DBF Pokal, I believe.
That's the one, Polkow, yeah.
DFB Pokal.
Um, but I just think that's absolutely insane, and I love it as well because it's like when Arsenal talk about them being invincible, it's like yeah, go speak to Leverkusen. So yeah, anything else that you want to add to this last game episode of the Overlandcy podcast 23-24?
No, I think that was a decent sum up of the season.
Yeah, nice brief one before we do the full one. So thank you all for watching. There is another episode about to come out that is a quick tangent with some updates that we've had and some breaking news. So if you are watching this, stay tuned for the next one, which will be released at the same time. So you can go and watch it straight away. As always, please like, share, follow, hit that notification button, comment below, and thank you all for watching.